the House passed a bill that could lead to a U.S. ban on TikTok. Right. So let me tell you. So there is a great Netflix special called Turning Point, The Cold War and the Bomb. I think it dropped a couple days ago, maybe yesterday. I'm not sure, but I watched it last night. I'm huge on Netflix. I love Netflix. And so I'm watching this special, and it is absolutely fascinating. You should watch it if you get a chance. It's absolutely fascinating. So I'm watching it last night. And so what happens in life, particularly for those of us in talk radio, everything is content, right? Everything, if you're in this business, everything is content from your daily moving around, bathroom breaks, whatever it is, everything becomes content. Everything goes into your brain and it's filtered through the world of you're somebody who talks to people on the radio, or you're somebody who talks to people on whatever. But for talk radio, because it's free form, you're singing, you're a singer, you're an artist, you're a rapper. That's what talkers are. No matter where you're from, no matter where you're talking, if you're a talk radio host, everything is content. And so I'm watching this show, and things are coming into my head. One of the great things about being on this great station, 95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk, is I go on the air after my dear friend, and a good brother, and a talented talker, Eric Von Hessler, the Von Hessler Doctrine. And so he and I talk a lot. Eric's a libertarian, a true libertarian, not disrespecting anybody, but he's a true libertarian. There's a lot of these that call themselves libertarian, and they're really just not anything. They just think it's cool to call themselves libertarians. But Eric's a real libertarian. And so he and I talk before shows and during the breaks when he goes on a commercial break. I'm sitting right outside the WSB studios, and he'll come out and we'll chop it up. Because we're talkers. We talk. And so his thoughts and everything are in my mind while I'm watching this show on Netflix, Turning Point, The Cold War and the Bomb. And this Netflix special is all about right after World War II and during World War II and at the closing of World War II. They're talking about everything going on in the world, in Europe, in Russia, in America, in China, Japan. They're talking about everything going on in the world, India, everything going on in the world at the same time. And it's several episodes. And so they get to the episode where Russia, the world war is over, and Russia has West Germany, and the Americans have East Germany, and America starts what they call the OSS, Office of Strategic Services, the precursor to the CIA. And they're talking about the things that the CIA or the OSS was trying to do, and using espionage and information gathering and spycraft to win this new war, this building Cold War. And so they go on in one episode, they kind of tell you the history of what becomes the CIA. And in one part, they talk about Dulles is like the second in command of the CIA, becomes kind of the head of the CIA, and his brother is a Secretary of State. And one of the things that one of the first things the CIA do, these guys, what they say in this documentary, and if you read up on their lives, you'll find this to be true, is that they wanted to keep the peace, yes. They wanted to protect America, yes, but they hated communism, which makes sense at that time. And at this time, too, I'm not saying, it's a failed political ideology. I don't care what you say about it, it fails. It hasn't worked ever. But they're talking about what they did. And so by this power that they had, there were two countries, Iran and Venezuela. And the presidents of both those countries, oil-rich countries, they didn't like them. And they were not that they didn't like them personally, but they were oil-rich countries, which wanted to nationalize their oil. Iran at the time, Britain controlled the oil in Iran, and Mossadegh was the president of Iran, and he wanted to nationalize the oil. In other words, Iran would sell their own oil. Nobody, no middleman, they'll sell it on an open market. Now, if you have oil, if you're an oil-rich country at that time, and you're selling your oil on an open market, you become a rich and powerful nation very quickly. Venezuela wanted to do it also. So Dulles and his brother, they got together and they worked trickery and trickcraft and spycraft to get rid of these two men. And one of the things the documentary talks about is how these two men want the world economy and the flow of markets and services and everything to keep flowing It enriched them. It enriched their friends. But more importantly, they felt like if you had a democracy, they didn't care if it was a dictator ahead of that democracy or what. If you kept things flowing, you kept commerce flowing, people would be less likely to go to war. And you could keep communism out because people's lives would be better. A really good idea in your head until you start messing around in the functions of other countries. But it was commerce. It was capitalism that made them do these things. And that's what I saw today in the passing of this bill. I woke up this morning after watching this special. And the first thing I see on Fox News, right? I wake up in the morning, get out of bed. I do my stretch and my morning yawning, wipe the sleep out my eyes, go down and make a pot of coffee, come back upstairs, climb back into bed, grab my laptop, and I'm watching Fox News. And the first thing I see is the House passing this bill. Okay, passed the bill. Could lead to the ban of TikTok. But here's the most interesting thing. This is when all the stimuli hit me. This is when Von Hessler, listening to him before I go on air, listening to the turning point, the Cold War and the bomb, listening to all the stimuli that I've heard over the last 48 hours, all comes flocking in because I saw one thing. After they told me the House passed this bill, the very next commentary, or the very next conversation on Fox News was, who is going to buy it in America? Who is going to buy it? They had Walmart up there. They had different companies up there. And I said, oh. And that's when it hit me all at once. This TikTok thing has nothing to do with China. TikTok is the most powerful social media platform out there. 170 million people are on it. Adults, kids, many kids. What happens if you get kids hooked on a product at 12, 13 years old? Well, they stay with it into their 20s. Everybody knows that. That's marketing 101. This is a valuable piece of property. This is a valuable country. This is a valuable piece of land. And American capitalism will never allow this valuable piece of land to be owned by anybody else but us. And if you believe for 1 second that these people are terribly concerned with the minds of your children and not just the clear profit motive to spread Chinese propaganda, to tell you China's controlling your kids, China's doing this, China's doing that. I'm not saying they're not. I'm just telling you, if you think these people really cared about your children's minds, and that's why they had to ban TikTok, and it had nothing to do with the capitalism. This was all about rich people trying to buy TikTok because it's the most powerful social media platform out there. But they couldn't do it legally because China owned it. They weren't going to sell it. So what do you have to do? You have to take China out the way and allow up to 5 companies. There's only 5 companies being listed that want to buy this TikTok thing. And if you believe for 1 second those 5 companies, are going to change the algorithms in any real severe way because it's a moneymaker, your kids will still be hooked on TikTok when a new ownership group takes over TikTok. Your kids will still be influenced with bucket challenges and crate challenges and all the silly stuff on TikTok. They will still be there. They're not going anywhere. Because why would you buy a company that's so successful doing what it's doing right now only to change it? Had they not shown me who was up to buy TikTok, I would have believed you thought that China was so bad and what they were doing was so evil and we need to read Peter Schweitzer's book. No, the point of the last couple weeks of dialogue on TikTok has only been about the fact that Americans want to own the most valuable social media property out there right now, which is TikTok. But they couldn't do it business-wise, so they had to do it politically. They had to fear-monger everybody, move everybody out the way, get China out the way, and then 5 companies will bid on it. And if you think it's going to change after they own it, think about how Twitter was controlled by the government. Think about how Facebook was controlled by the government. And think about how this same government that cares so much about your children continues to allow naked women on Facebook, on Instagram. If you care so much about what the Chinese were doing to the minds of your children, just look at television. Shelley Winter Show. We'll be right back.